Okay, thank you for giving us a moment for the recording to start. Good evening, GCA families. I am Tamisha Shelton, and I am the assistant principal for discipline and attendance. And we have Mrs. Elizabeth Rose. Elizabeth, since you're going to start our presentation, then you could go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Rose, and I am the primary grade band data and assessment administrator. Do you want to go on to the next screen?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot I was proceeding. Oh,
That's
here we go.
okay.
Okay.
Oh, bear with us. Okay, it's been a fun but long day. All right, so NWEA MAP. It stands for the Northwest Evaluation Association, and the MAP stands for Measures of Academic Progress. It is an online assessment, as you all know, and it is aligned to the Common Core standards. It is present in 49 foreign countries, 50 states, and 3,400 districts, so it's quite popular. It measures what your child knows and what they are ready to learn. Okay, we have a little 3-minute video for you to watch. And in the video, we're going to take a closer look at how MAP growth is designed to support students' learning. And specifically, we would like for you to listen to how they talk about it being adaptive, how they explain that. And it will help you understand why we stress that it's so important that students take the assessment independently. And then you will also be introduced to what a RIT score is, and in a few minutes, Ms. Shelton is going to explain what a RIT score is in greater detail.
MAP growth measures what your child knows and is ready to learn. This assessment was created by NWEA, a not-for-profit organization. NWEA was founded in 1977 by educators and researchers with the mission of partnering to help all kids learn. More than 9 million students in the U.S. and in 140 countries worldwide use MAP growth. Most schools give MAP growth tests in the fall, winter, and spring. The test is adaptive, which means that it adjusts to each student's responses. If a student gets a question right, it gets harder. If a student gets a question wrong, it gets easier. The test is not concerned with which grade a student is in. It will go as high or low as it needs to. This helps you see if your child is testing above, below, or right at their grade level in all types of subjects, including math, reading, language usage, and science. Students receive an individual RIT score at the end of the test. MAP growth measures student performance with our RIT scale, the most stable and mature scale in the industry. This scale measures and tracks performance across grade levels, so you will be able to see your child's growth from year to year and over multiple years. Another great thing about the RIT score is that you can connect it to online resources. For example, you can get book suggestions based on a student's reading level and use free sites like Khan Academy, which provide practice exercises based on your child's learning needs. NWEA also has a College Explorer tool that lets you enter your child's RIT score to see which colleges they can likely get into. Teachers also get a student report after the test. This report explains what the student knows and helps the teacher and the student set goals for learning. Every 3 years, NWEA provides schools with norms. This is anonymous data for more than 10 million students around the country. It tells teachers and students the top, middle, and bottom scores of all these students combined, so they can compare where a student is to other students and help them grow. A teacher can then say to a student, "Wow, you're in the 98th percentile. What kind of work will keep you challenged?" Or, "You're in the 58th percentile for math. Let's look at where you need help." MAP growth improves both teaching and learning by giving teachers accurate information about your child. For more information about MAP growth, visit nwea.org/parent-toolkit.
I apologize. I believe there was an echo during that last video. So I will remember to turn my mic off for the next video.
All right, thank you. As the video explained, what adaptive is for NWEA, as your student is answering questions correctly, the assessment gets more difficult. And as they answer wrong, it gets easier. So that's why it's just very important that students take it independently. And I just wanted to reiterate that point. And as the video explained, we are using that data, we can analyze it, and we compare the data to other students in the same peer group, and it helps us know where your student is and what they are ready to learn. The data is normalized and it's from 11 million students, and it's compiled to provide guides that we are going to show you in just a few minutes. You'll see the charts that we have. The data is updated every 3 years. And I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Shelton now to explain the RIT score in depth.
Okay, so Mrs. Rose has shown you a video explaining growth, and now I'm going to talk about the RIT score. Each time a student takes the MAP assessment, the results come in the form of a RIT score. The RIT score provides information about what the student already knows, what their skills are, and what their abilities are at that point in time. A RIT score has the same meaning regardless of the student's age or grade level, and we like to think of it as like height or measuring height. If a student is 4 feet tall, it doesn't matter what grade level they're in, they're still 4 feet tall. So the RIT score has the same meaning. The RIT score also helps us track growth, and that's one of the most important uses for the RIT score that educators use. So we use it to guide our instruction and to track growth for students. You may have seen this. You may have seen this chart. This is what we've been sending out to families, and this is what you may receive after the end of the term. We have your fall RIT score, and then we have the winter RIT score. And what you will do with this chart when you receive it is you'll be able to compare, or you'll be able to see how much your student has grown from the fall MAP assessment to the winter MAP assessment. And then later when we take the spring MAP assessment, you'll have another score there. The goal is that you will be able to see your student increase their RIT score after each assessment. Now let's dig a little bit deeper into the RIT score. We have a sample student here, and if you look on the left, you'll see the term and year, and that the WI represents winter. And so this is for winter 2021, and this is a 5th grade student. The student earned a RIT score of 219. This tells us that the student scored in the 73rd percentile. That means with a RIT score of 219, this student has performed as well or better than 73% of other students in that student's peer group. So if you look at the box, the yellow box below on the right, you'll also notice that because this student performed in the 73rd percentile, this student is in the high average range. So that's very important when you are deciding how you will prepare instructional materials for your student, what you will do at home with them. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move along in the presentation. Now, how do our teachers use the RIT scores? Well, our teachers in our school use the RIT scores for lots of reasons. And it's all based in how we're going to instruct our students. First, you'll see that the teachers use the RIT score to identify gaps that students may have in their learning. You'll also see that we use the RIT score to provide appropriately leveled instructional materials. We want to make sure that we provide work for a student that challenges them, but that it's not too hard for them to be successful. And we also want to identify areas where that same student will need some assistance or some support. We also use the RIT score to group our students into smaller groups and give them more individualized instruction based on their specific needs. And then again, I mentioned this before about growth. We use our RIT scores to identify the growth. And if there is no growth with the student, then we use this information to further determine what actions we need to take to make sure that the student does turn around and continue to grow. Here's another example of another student's RIT score. And again, if you look at the chart if you look at the image on the left, it says FA20. That represents the fall 2020 MAP assessment. This is a fifth grade student, and on that assessment, the student earned a 224 RIT score. And then all the way to the right, you will see the percentile range. And the student scored in the 88th percentile, which again, very high percentile range. So what we have in the image all the way on the right is the achievement norm table. And this is very important because this particular table helps us align student performance with their grade level. If you notice, this one is a reading. It says 2020 reading student achievement norm. For this fifth grade student, we would look, since it's the fall assessment, we would look at the mean that's in the column under fall, and you will see it circled in green, or a square box in green, that the mean RIT score for students in that same peer group, fifth grade fall assessment, the mean was 204.48. Well, this student had a RIT score that was well above that 204.48. So that's what we're looking for. And then if you notice, you move over 2 columns to the winter column, you'll see that it goes up to 209.12. And then for the spring, you have 210. So again, when you're looking at your student's RIT score and you're comparing it to other students who have performed in that same peer group, then this gives you an idea of where your student is performing when compared with other students. This is a closer image of the reading norm table for K through 5. And here's the math norm table. And we will provide you, I think it's already in our note board. We will provide you with the link so that you'll be able to see all of these tables. But one note I should make is that kindergarten through second grade they only take the reading and the math MAP assessment. So we also have a science and a language. This is the language usage norm chart. And then the next slide is the science. And the K through 2 students will not need this. And I'll hand it off to Mrs. Rose.
All right, we have got another very short video to play for you, and you'll get to hear from Michael, and he will explain how he feels about the test getting harder as it is adapting to how he is answering the questions.
My name's Michael. I'm in third grade. My teacher was asking our class about what it was like to take the MAP test. I told her that MAP really helped me grow. When I take my tests, it makes me happy to see it get harder and harder. Happy! Every right answer makes them harder. So that means I'm doing better and better. That makes me try harder too. I felt so happy when I looked at my third grade scores and when I saw the difference and how much I grew. I hope my scores go up in third and fourth and fifth grade too. When I increased my score the last time we took MAP, I was so excited. It was almost as good as getting a puppy named Scrump.
Okay, so you can see how Michael looks at the test getting harder. So as your student is taking MAP, that is something that you can talk to them about and to prepare them for, that they are going to start getting harder questions, but that is an opportunity for them to see their growth from year to year, and that it's a good thing, that we want them to get harder and get to where maybe they start not knowing very many answers, and that is okay. So you all have winter conferences coming up in January. As you are meeting with your teachers and you're receiving that RIT score for your student and your student's goals, go ahead and talk to the teacher about how can you help your student meet those goals. and what strategies can you put in place at home, and maybe some resources that they can offer and make available to you to help your students set those or meet those goals. Okay, now we are going to hear from Lila, and she talks about how she's comparing her height to her map growth. And I know Mrs. Shelton already referenced that as well, that it's a unit of measurement that is does not change. So it's like an inch on a ruler. An inch is an inch. So we are going to hear from Lila, and she will explain it all to you.
Hi, I'm in third grade. My name is Lila. A few days ago, it was parent-teacher conferences. My mom and dad both went with me. They used to be teachers, and my dad knows all about the MAP test. They had lots of questions. They really like to ask questions. But I surprised them. Before they asked my teacher, I took them to my dad's to see my MAP goal sheet. And I explained how MAP shows me what I'm good at, what I need to get better at, and how I use that to set my goals for the next time. I told him how much I like seeing my scores. He asked me why. I think he was a little bit surprised. So I asked him, Dad, remember how every year on my birthday you made a mark on the door to show how much I grew? That's how MAP works. Each time I take the test, it's like I get to make another mark on the wall. Then I set goals, then I keep growing. It was really fun to take my parents to each class and show them how much I had grown and learned. That makes me really happy. They both looked happy too.
Whenever you receive your students' good score, help them set goals and help them know how to reach those goals as the year progresses. And I'm going to turn it back over to Mrs. Shelton.
There it is. There's my microphone. Okay, as we near the end of our presentation and we close out with a message from our principal, I want to share several resources with you. First, we have our NWEA MAP administration dates at GCA. For those of you who are with us in the fall, we administered our fall MAP assessment during the week of August 2nd through August 6th.
Can't hear anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can't hear me? I heard someone say you can't.
We can hear you.
You can. Is that better? Elizabeth, can you hear me? Okay. Okay, so I was saying that we just finished our winter MAP assessment during the week of November 29th through December 3rd. And again, those scores, you should expect to see them at the end or sometime in the next few weeks after our first semester closes. And then our final
I can't hear anything that you're saying. It's not coming out of the speakers.
Okay, I am not sure. Some
It's just
people
your mouth moving. I can't hear you.
Some people can hear me and some people cannot. So, Elizabeth, would you? I'll do the control R. Let me try that.
Go to the settings, the gear in the bottom right corner, and click the camera or the mic, and then turn it back off, and you should be able to hear.
Okay, let's see if everybody can hear me now. You can hear me? Okay, good. So I was singing and everybody can hear me. Okay, that's nice to know. And it's recorded. So I was saying that we just finished up our winter MAP assessment. And in the spring, we will have our final MAP assessment for this school year. And that is May 6th. Let's see, let me get back to that slide for you. So I'll have accurate dates. That's May 16th through May 19th. And while I'm speaking about these dates, I want to encourage you, families, the MAP assessment is very important again, as we look for our student growth and we determine instructional materials. And I know that many of our parents are there and helping support, but the MAP assessment, we really, really need students to work on it alone, because we really need to be able to identify the resources that we will need to help them learn and grow. So the test, as Mrs. Rose had mentioned to you, it will get harder, but that helps us determine how much challenge we should give to our students. So we encourage you to support, but allow the students to take the test and do their very, very best, so that we can have the best and most accurate idea of what they need. And my last two slides are some additional resources for you, and we're going to give you all of these links. And this is the family toolkit that NWEA MAP has created for our families. And
I'm
here
using my phone, so I don't know what happened. You just completely blacked out.
you will have the much of the information that we have shared with you will be on that family toolkit. And then on the final resource is a resource that is in multiple languages. So for those of you who can hear me, thank you so much for your time. We will take some questions, and we will
Refresh it on my end, but I can't hear anything. It's just quiet.
Hey, good evening. If you have a question, if you'll just go ahead and raise your hand, we will go down the line that way and get started. All right, Winifred, thanks for raising your hand. Go ahead. What's your question? How can we help you?
I didn't realize I raised my hand. I probably was just clicking on.
Oh, no problem at all. Thanks for coming tonight. We'll move on to
Okay.
It is moving quickly. Bandana G.
Hi everyone. Thanks for this presentation. So I have a question related to the map result. So does this result will help move kids from normal class to advanced or gift, or there will be another test for that?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Sure. So I was saying, is the map test results are the only result criteria for the students to go from like normal classes to the advanced, or there is another criteria for that?
That's a great question. Thank you so much for that question. No, it's not. Our teachers use
Can't
a
hear
variety of
anything
data
at
points.
all.
Okay, I'm sorry. Someone still can't hear me.
Refreshed it and stepped away and tried to refresh it, but I still can't hear anything. It's completely silent.
Rebecca, can you hear me? You can. Okay, I'll finish answering that question and I'll let someone else jump in. I was saying that there are numerous data points that our teachers use to identify our students' instructional needs. The MAP assessment is just one data point that we use, but the teachers use a variety of data to determine if a student needs to be placed in advanced or some other some other classes where they will receive additional support.
Thank you for the answer. So when will that happen actually? I mean, what is the timeline for that? Because I think first semester is already over. I mean, we are halfway through the session.
I don't know the exact dates, but I do know that the gifted assessments take along, if you are trying to do advanced or gifted assessments, it's a lengthy process. We will try to gather that information for you and put it in the chat, or you can send me an email. My email is, let me put that in the chat, T. Shelton. So if you send me your question, then I can forward it to our gifted leaders, and they will be able to give you a more accurate information and answer some of your specific questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a
Yes, ma'am.
good
Of
night.
course. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I just added the link in the chat for anyone with that question for gifted and advanced students. So there is a lot of great information there and context there as well.
Mrs. Bailey, I'm going to try to refresh again and see if that helps to make sure that everyone can hear.
I think it's that their connection, Michelle. So we've been able to hear you the whole time.
Okay.
So I think you're doing just fine.
Okay.
I know it's hard to tell. Lakeisha, thanks for raising your hand. How can we help you tonight?
Can you turn it down a little bit more? Good evening. How are you all? I do have a question, but it's not so much concerning MAP. It's concerning class schedules, and I don't know if this is the forum to ask that question on.
We only have one other hand raised, so I think go ahead. We've got time. Go ahead and ask us your question about schedules.
Okay. My student, he is in kindergarten and new to school altogether. He's never been to daycare or anything like that. So coming his first schooling experience, I'm noticing that he's pretty overwhelmed, even though he does get a 2 hour break in between the classes, in between math, and then he gets his hour lunch break. He's still overwhelmed being on the computer from 8 a.m. until 2:30, and 2 days out of the week, 3:30. It's a lot. And he's shutting down halfway through the day. By the time lunch comes back, he's not even wanting to get back on the computer. So how do I help him stay encouraged and want to stay engaged and not just give up?
Well, we hear you, my friend. That's all I have to say. I know it's hard, and that's why this was part of the topic in the main room too, because it can be difficult for kindergartners, and really it can be difficult for students of all ages, and even us as adults, on the computer sometimes. So we understand that question for sure. I will say it gets easier with kindergarten. I have taught kindergarten virtually here myself, and kindergartners get a little bit, as they grow a little more throughout the year and get more adjusted, that does get easier. Some of the things that we usually suggest for our primary students is just to use a reward chart or something that motivates them, a picture schedule, something that maybe he can even manipulate. Like if you put up he can draw a picture of the different parts of his day and then be able to take that down one by one as the day goes on. And then you can, encourage him to say, like, you've got 2 more classes, you've got 2 more things to do. It just kind of helps them to stay on track and know what to expect. Those are some of the biggest things I've heard from parents that have helped with our younger students. But I would also encourage you to ask your child's teacher for some suggestions and things that might motivate him specifically. Find out, what he's really into, what he's interested in, and that can help your teacher to partner with you in that and help get him motivated.
Okay, I appreciate that, because it makes my heart feel really sad, because, when they're calling him for his one-on-one time, the first thing out of his mouth, I don't know. And I'm like, Josiah, you do know this.
Yes, I totally understand. Yeah, maybe give him some kind of reward to shoot for after his one-on-one time too. I know how that is when it's their turn and that they know more than they're willing to do at that time. That is the fun of kindergarten, in person or virtual. That's sometimes how it goes.
Okay, well, thank you, ladies. I greatly appreciate it.
You be
Hey,
quiet.
bud. Oh, awesome. Okay, we have some other hands up. Justina. That hand went down, so you might have not had a question after all. Lorena J.
Hi. I was wondering, as a parent that's had a student that's gone through GCA before and graduated through the high school, um, actually worked for GCA for a short while myself, really value the school, think it's great, especially for the students that it's a good fit for. And I know that's not going to be every student. Um, we brought my granddaughters back to GCA because they were not being served well in a brick and mortar. And was really, really surprised to find how intensive it is this year. And I was wondering the thoughts behind that. We're starting at 7:30 in the morning, ending, well, I end at 4:15 because I have to leave. Um, Sometimes they're going till 7, 8 o'clock at night between trying to do what's in the classroom, what projects are assigned, what's in the mods to do. I do understand that one of my students is currently in SPED and under the AIM program, and that adds even more to it to make it more difficult. But I was really surprised when I came back to find this setup because it's not what it used to be before. And I know that was one thing that I really valued was it gave me the chance to work with my student on things that I knew were weaknesses, whereas now there's no time in the day for that. So I would really like to hear your guys' side.
There we go. Thank you for that question. Yes, I hear you there. If you've been here a long time or you've left and come back, there is a lot of new things that have happened at GCA. And a lot of those improvements and updates were made because we found where some of the things we were doing were not working and where our students were not having enough instructional time with their teachers online. So I understand it is very different. We are very different than a homeschool in that our students basically go to school online with a similar schedule to what they would do in a brick and mortar school. One thing I will share with you that I find often when talking with parents, you mentioned the modules, and I know there's a lot of resources in the modules, but you'll see in there, you know how the work, some of it is marked graded work. Those, of course, are the assignments that go into the grade book. Then there are other resources, like maybe an FLVS lesson that's listed in there. Those are optional for you. We encourage you to do those when you can or to pick the parts of those lessons that your student needs, but they are very long. And so we do recognize that for the amount of time that your student is already working on those standards in class, they may not need to do that lesson. They may just need one page of that on something that you saw they need more help with. But looking through the module, know that you can and definitely should pick out the graded assignments first and then use the other resources as you can and need to for your students. We don't expect you to do everything that's in those modules, but we do want you to have what you need when you need something and you need a resource. So I hope that helps some. See, I saw some thumbs up, so hopefully that helped a few of you. That's a great question. Lisa S.
Having a great day. I have a question. It's kind of like two-part based. My first question is in regards to the map assessment. How does that help the child individually? not necessarily state-based or based on an assessment, meaning will children or will students be given work to assist them, at their level where they are? Because I currently supplement a lot of work for my child because he's kind of not, within the modules, he's kind of like beyond some of that work. So my question is, how does the map benefit them from an individual basis? And then the next question, because I don't want to go ahead and allow you to answer both at the same time, is if the teacher does not recommend your child to be placed in gifted or so forth, then how do you as a parent, or how are you able to advocate for your own child to make sure your child is able to have those resources or that access to them?
Those are questions. So for the gifted program, parents are able to make a direct parent referral to the gifted program too. There are certain windows when they do the testing, but you can absolutely do that as a parent. We also have conferences coming up in January, and your first question, that would be a super question. I'd encourage you to send that ahead of time to the teacher too, to ask about MAP and how that data can be used specifically for your student. Now that students have completed the test, we're digging into the data and looking at the growth, and that's what we're going to be doing the rest of this week, and we come back in January also. And then I also want to turn my microphone off and give these other ladies, they have a lot of knowledge of MAP too, and they may have some suggestions for you.
Thank you so much for your help.
Sorry, I just can't seem to keep up with that mic. It moves so fast. So I was going to add to what Mrs. Bailey said. Yes, I strongly encourage you to reach out to your child's teacher. But with the MAP assessment, you were asking about how does it determine the child's individual needs. Well, the resources that we shared, the videos, the ones that Mrs. Rose shared with you, really short videos, but I would strongly encourage you to go to the family toolkit and look. The resources, it's not overwhelming at all. It's not a huge amount of reading. It's very, very family and user friendly. I encourage you to visit that website so that you can view some of those resources to help you better understand how those MAP resources can help your child. First of all, as we mentioned in the presentation, MAP is used all over the world, and it's one of those tests where your child can go to another school, and it's highly likely that they will have the MAP assessment there, and your child will be able to take those scores with them and compare what they did while they were here to what they would be doing at their new school. In addition to that, when you go to the family toolkit, they will show you reading levels and things like that. So if your child is reading, for example, above grade level, then they recommend resources that you can use to help further support your child and not give her or him any, too challenging to work that's too challenging for them, but it's right there on their stretch level. It's challenging enough to stretch them to move to the next level, but not too easy that it's going to make them, it's going to make them bored.
Okay.
So yeah, so those resources, I'll put the link back in there. But as a parent, when I was learning about MAP, that's exactly what I did. I went to their website for those resources, and they are really, really awesome.
I do understand that, but my question really wasn't in reference to how does MAP collectively help the student individually.
Okay.
What I mean is that let me provide clarity, is that
Okay.
in regards to the classroom base, how does that individually help my child? So
Okay.
will the teacher take that information or that RIT score or that guide and say, okay, well, this student is at this level and this student is at this level. How can we help the student at where they are? So collectively, I understood the premise of the MAP.
Okay.
My question was more so geared is that how are the teachers taking that information to individually assist the students in the classroom, given
Yes.
that students are at different levels?
Yes, ma'am. And that question that your child's teacher would be able to answer exactly how she does that in her classroom, because they are provided with the MAP score information. And so I encourage you to speak with the teacher about specifically what she does or he does in the classroom for your student.
Thank you so much. You guys
You're
are
welcome. Thank you.
y'all have
I
a great day.
apologize. I'm thank you for clarifying so that I could answer the question.
No, ma'am. Thank you. You have a good
Sorry,
night.
I was going to
You
follow up
too.
with just one added comment is that all teachers hold small groups now, and in those small groups, that's when they can really differentiate instruction and use those RIT scores to make sure they're meeting the needs of your student.
Okay. Thank you all.
We have the best parents, don't we? I always love the questions that we get here, and we just appreciate you coming and spending an evening with us. Jeremy, you have your hand raised next.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a first grader who is joining at the second half of the year. So she's going to be brand new to Georgia Cyber. She's actually brand new to public school in general because she's been being homeschooled. So the question I have is the MAP assessment that you guys are talking about. Is that what is used to help place the children initially, or is that something that's used after they're already in their course and is used to figure out how best to help them progress?
First of all, welcome. We're so excited to have some of our new January students with us. Yes, so to answer your question, both. MAP is one of the data points that's used to place students. And that just helps us we have a lot of students here at GCA and many, many classrooms. And so we try to put them in the best place possible where we can serve them the best. And then it also, what was the second part? Forgive me, can you refresh my memory?
Yeah, the second part is kind of just a follow on to the first. Is it used to place them initially, or is it used to help them progress as you kind of check their progress throughout the year?
Yes, thank you, thank you. Absolutely. So our students who have been here first semester, one reason we're talking about MAP a lot right now is that they take it, students take it 3 times throughout the school year. So upon enrollment, and for many that was in August, September, early, then we all just took it again in December, and then one final time in May. So, and one thing that is great about this assessment is the growth that it shows. So we're not always just looking at whether a student is on grade level or at a certain point. We really just get excited and celebrate also the growth of each child wherever they are at. And that's the thing that I love about MAP, is that it is focused on the growth. So that helps us beyond just enrollment and placement to meet their needs and review their individual data each time we take the test. It's a great question. All right, next up, it keeps scrolling. I'm trying to get to the top of the list here. Samita, and I am doing my best to pronounce name, so I apologize. Please correct me if I did not say your name correctly. You are up next, and we'd be happy to help you and answer your question.
Hi. I think one of my questions was already answered when Lisa asked you a question, if I'm recalling the name correct. But I do have a second question. So we joined sometime in October. So a couple of questions related. We did take the map when we started, and I assume that the results of map were used to place the child in the appropriate classroom. Um, does that mean that with the second map, the child will be reassigned to another classroom?
No.
Because we just took a map in December.
Yes,
No.
thank
Okay.
you for that question. That's really good for us to clarify. No, we will not be moving students to new classes. That was just to help us kind of initially find a spot and figure out our initial placement. But really, that's just a starting point. It just, the children grow and their map growth shows different things. They get way more grades and data throughout the school year. So that's just one initial placement, and we won't make any changes to their class based on the recent map.
Okay, thank you. I do have a second part of the question.
Sure.
So, because we are completely new to the whole cyber academy system and virtual schooling system, uh, I just wanted to get more clarity on how does the curriculum compare to a regular brick and mortar public school?
Ooh, that's a great question. I haven't been asked that one before. I'd like to hear from some of our others as well, but I will say personally from my experience, the curriculum here um, is exceptionally better in that we have a wealth of resources that I never had at any of the other schools I've taught at. And I will share with you too that any of the teachers, any of the new teachers that come here, that's one of the first things that they're always so excited for. Like when you log into Clever and you see how many resources that we have available for our curriculum and our supplemental resources, it is just out of this world compared to any of the other places that I've been. And what I really appreciate is many of the resources that we have that differentiate for each child. The resources like Moby Max and Zern, where students work on their own pathway, those are what I have found my own children to benefit from the most as well. So I think those are some of our most valuable curriculums. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to throw in there? It's a great question.
I'll just add that we parallel a normal bricks and mortar school because we're all teaching the standards. So, as Mrs. Bailey already commented, we have a lot of resources to offer students for remediation or enrichment, but we do all teach the standards.
Okay, so going forward, is there a standardized assessment that compares to what I hear about is called Georgia milestones? Is MAP similar to that, or is there another standard to which the kids are going to be tested?
Well, I can say that the MAP assessment is not standardized
Okay.
because it is adaptive. And when Mrs. Rose was explaining that for each question, if the child gets it correct, then they will give them another question that's a little more challenging. And
Yeah,
that is
it
not
is.
the case with
Mhm.
the GMAS. And so that's why we use the MAP assessment really for to guide our instruction. Because if a child is, say, in the second grade, and they are answering questions that are, third or fourth or even fifth grade, or they're reading on those levels, then that
Mhm.
helps the teacher immediately, because we get our MAP scores immediately. That helps the teacher immediately make adjustments to her instruction. Oh, this student has grown so much. Let me challenge him or her a little bit more and build my instruction for this particular student in this way. And it goes the same if the student is having struggles. Again, the teacher will get that MAP data right away, and she will be able to adjust the instruction accordingly. With the GMAS, it takes time. We have to wait, and it is a standardized test, so it is different in that way. And one additional note: both of the tests, the GMAS and the MAP, they are aligned with the standards that our students are learning and our teachers are using for
Mhm.
teaching in our classrooms.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am, of course.
Sit back. Question. You said that the MAP tests were not standardized tests, but are they used, are the scores used as far as placement for a student? Do you take those scores into consideration for placement of a child to their next grade?
No.
No.
Mrs. Bailey, were you going to say yes?
They're one piece of the picture, of the story of a student's data, I would say. So we look at many different data points,
Right.
their interim assessments, their MAP scores, their overall grades, any and every piece of data we look at for student promotion at the end of the school year.
Okay.
So it is considered, it is one piece. I don't want anyone to feel like MAP is, going to determine whether a student moves on to the next grade level. That's not the case. That is a good question.
Okay, great job.
And that's what I was going to say, that it's a part of a collection of data that we use for the promotion and retention. So thank you so much, Mrs. Bailey.
Okay, thank you so much. We're new kids on the block. This is our first time here. He's never been in a brick and mortar school. He's never been to daycare. He's never been anywhere but at home with me. And so it's been challenging for both of us. I can certainly relate to the mom who was on earlier, who said that her child is getting a little tired, so to speak. But it's a work in progress. It's just like if they were going to a brick and mortar. It's just what you have to do to calm them down. I know I'm 61, so I'm an old mom. And this has been very challenging trying to find my way through all the different uh, components of GCA. But I absolutely love you guys. You have been patient. You have been understanding. Um, and I'm just gonna wait and see how this does. If I'm hoping, I'm really fingers crossed and hoping that we can grasp. I feel like a teacher. I'm doing planning now. I'm doing I'm keeping up with attendance and I'm doing his class plannings. We're with GCA, we have ABC Mouse, we have Hooked on Phonics. So we're kind of bouncing all over the place, but I'm trying to do as much as I can to keep him engaged. I think a lot of his stress comes probably from me because he sees that I'm stressing. So my thing with mom earlier would be to calm down, take it one day at a time. It's you're learning, he's learning, and it's not a fail situation. It's just you make mistakes, you pick it up, and you teach your baby how to keep going and not give up. And that's what I'm trying to do now at 61.
Well, we certainly are grateful to have you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for thank you for choosing us, and we will do our very best to take care of you and your child. And we are available for support. And the first step is just coming to the parent universities like you are, where you get this
Yes,
information, and then you have more questions, and you come back again and you reach out. So we are so grateful for you, and thank you again. And yes, hang in there. There are other families that needed to hear your story. So thank you for sharing that. But hang
absolutely.
in there because it's a struggle. The first year
It
is a
is.
struggle for most because it's such a change.
It is.
But we have families that adjust and they get in and they get in the second year and they're flying and they stay here from kindergarten until graduation.
And
So,
that's what I'm
yes,
hoping.
yes, ma'am. So hang in there and thank you again for choosing us.
Absolutely. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
Man, right on. That just warmed my heart. Everybody, I'm sure in this room could relate to that. Thank you so much for sharing. I can tell just by those few statements you're doing a great job. So just keep on. And that wait and see that you spoke about, that's so right on. That's exactly it. You just got to
Yes,
keep
ma'am.
going day to day, and it will get easier.
Yeah. You just have to be patient and you just kind of have to calm down and let it do what it do, as the young people say. And that's what I'm that's what
I
I'm
love
trying.
it.
We're making it. I set goals for him every day. Like I said, I feel like a teacher. My oldest is 42. My baby is 26, and now I have a 5-year old that I'm that's my fountain of youth. So we're hanging in there. Um, your family liaison is an excellent source. Ours, Miss Pam, is amazing. I can't speak highly enough of her. She's patient, she's understanding. Everybody is. Bethany in attendance. I've bugged her about working with nucleus. I think you kind of overwhelm yourself with so much information because there's so much to do. Till you kind of oversensitize your brain and you just taking in so much at one time trying to learn it all. But I just had to reach out to them and bare my little soul to them and hope they understood, and they did. And they kind of calm you down. It calms you down and it helps you to it helps Romeo. He's now a little more calm about going to school and he's looking forward to it, and he jumps up and he wakes me up, and it's we're getting there. It's only been a few weeks, but we're getting there. We just started in October,
Yes.
but we're getting there. So mamas, if you're nervous and it don't seem like you're making a way, just give it time. Just be patient and don't let them see you stress, because they see you stress and then they stress and then they think it's something that they shouldn't be doing or something
Right.
that they don't like, and we don't want that.
No.
We don't want
Well,
that.
thank you again so much for sharing. And I
Absolutely.
think we're getting close to our time, so we're going to try
Yep.
to answer a couple more questions before we go. And then Mrs. Bailey, I did have a special question that I wanted you to answer for the audience, but let's try to hear from Mr. Todd. Are you still there? Okay.
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Yes. Thank you for having this and a portion for us to ask questions. I think that everyone has been doing a great job. I think I've spoken to at least most of you. I'm a parent of two children currently at GCA. One of them is in first grade, and the other one is in kindergarten. Um, now, um, I kind of got all my questions answered with the map, prior, and of course, it was reiterated today. Um, I guess the questions or suggestions may have you um, would be surrounding on, you know, I guess it would be more so the recess, having a period. One of the teachers does something on Fridays where during lunch they get to have, talk to the kids and socialize. I think that's great. Um, but I'm more so concerned with my daughter who, she's like, she wants that. She keeps telling me to speak to her teacher and everything like that. And I wanted to know if that was something that, could possibly be implemented, maybe not now, but eventually, as time progresses. Um, Also, a little bit more frequent interaction between the kids as far as like a period. I've heard some concerns with the parents saying that the schedule is pretty much strenuous or it's pretty long. My kids have adapted to it very well. They love everything about it. I just want them to have a little social activity, as far as with the other kids, because they're constantly learning with the other kids, but they don't really have the downtime to socialize with them and build on their social skills and so forth as far as interacting with other kids. I think that would be a great addition to the existing program. Other than that, I don't think that this is something that is collateral with brick and mortar. In fact, I think that the way y'all have this program set up, especially for my age group, my kids' age group, I think that this is more advanced because one thing they don't do in brick and mortar is have nine period separate classes for 9 different periods. Like that's something that usually come into in like middle school. So I think that that's awesome that you had these little breaks. I just I guess thinking of another innovative suggestion, only because of what my kids have raised. My son, he loves it on Fridays. I know that my daughter, she keeps asking me. The second um, question is the attendance. Some days, the a class, something may happen or maybe some issues, and um, we have to actually manually go into the attendance and do that instead of it being like automated. I know that I've basically kind of was very inquisitive with the attendance specialist, the first one and the new one, and I basically have understanding where things, they have detections in the system. They can go back and look at, you know, when someone was in, what class and what time and so forth. Is there a way you can automate that process? As far as so, because there's some days that it could be an issue and the kid is in the class, but you still have to go in there manually and put that they were there, because it didn't, I don't know, maybe it's manual intervention that didn't happen or automation.
Right.
And also the last part is when there's something going on with the class, like the teacher may be canceling, is there a way that you can have it so when kids do log in, it says classes canceled today, do this and do that, for when they log in, instead of a blank class, screen, and showing that, not really giving any instruction or anything like that or letting anybody know. I've seen a teacher do it once, or a few times, in my son's class, but it's not pretty much a consistent measure taken. I think that would actually be very effective as well. um, and you know, as far as assisting us, assistance.
Well, Mr. Todd, I want to address some of your questions. I'll start from the bottom and stop at the top so Mrs. Bailey can add if she has additional information. But I wanted to speak to the attendance. The class cancellations, of course, sometimes teachers have emergencies. The expectation is that the students are warned and that there is an email sent out to the families to let them know that there will be no class. Our attendance, this is a new process for us this year. We have just opened up Nucleus to our families this year, and so we're very excited and we're growing. It's getting better every single day. So I have written down the suggestions that you have, and so I look forward to impressing you with how much better this process is going to be, next month and especially next school year. So thank you for those
Awesome.
suggestions, and I encourage you to continue. Those attendance specialists, they are the best resource. So for the other parents here, you are doing a great job reaching out to your attendance specialists, and they will teach you, and that will cause you so much less stress if you just reach out to them. So thank you for those suggestions. And as to the recess, I will leave that for Mrs. Bailey to address. I think it's a great idea for those little ones, and we do have PE and physical education, but I think you're speaking to something a little bit different. So I'll hand it off to Mrs. Bailey.
Yes, and I'll be quick. I know we have to wrap up. I did put my email in the chat box for anyone who did not get a question asked. Please reach out to me. I want to make sure you are heard. Peer interaction and the socialization that you spoke of is so important to us, and we know it is to you too. And we have been talking about this a lot in our teacher meetings and our staff meetings because we hear from you, we hear from the kids on our surveys, and we as teachers want to do this more ourselves. We have been trying to find more creative ways to do that and to find ways to fit it into the schedule. I will say it's just hard with all of the standards and the instruction that we have to get done to fit it in. But we do, absolutely see the importance. And I wrote down some of your good ideas and examples here as we start looking at the schedule for next year, for us to consider. So we will definitely keep those in mind and just know that it is a focus of ours that we're trying to work on and just grow and do better with that ourselves. Even tonight, I heard a few primary friends in the background when learning coaches were on the microphone, and I wanted to turn this into recess. Like, it's our favorite thing to get time to just talk with each other. So we know it's really important for our kids.
Thank you. Definitely, feel like I've been acknowledged and heard, and thank you so much for your input and responses.
Thank you. I sincerely mean it when we say we appreciate you all so much taking time out of your evening. And each of you who spoke here, it's so easy to see what a heart you have for your students and working with us in GCA. And it means so much to us that you take your time to work with us and that you trust us with your most precious possessions and their education. We don't take that lightly. So thank you so much again for coming tonight. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. And we will see you again next time. Thank you.
Miss Bailey.
Yes.
Is there any way that I can get mine in right quick?
I will stay here. Go ahead. It doesn't look like they've closed the room. Go ahead.
Okay. My kindergartner, it was in mainstream classes. Her teacher has now seen where she is a very bright, gifted young lady. She's scoring in 3rd and 4th grade levels. So she's going to be moved into the AP classes. I have the sneaking fear that it's not going to be up to where she needs to be. Is the gifted program for this year completely shut off?
I do not know the specific timeline. There's a window in the fall and then again in the spring where they do the gifted testing, but it's completely with another team. If you want to email me, I'd be happy to get you in touch with them so that we can find out more details and answer that specifically. We can definitely do that.
Because as of right now, her learning path is to do the AP courses, and then coming 1st grade doing the gifted. But with her testing so far ahead, I'm afraid that that's not going to be far enough up for her.
Okay, yeah, send me an email, please. I'll put it again in the chat because it sounds like we need to talk more specifically about your student, and we'd be happy to do that. Let me go back to the main room chat. Okay, and I am typing it in, but they did let me know they are going to close the room. I'm so glad they gave us a few extra minutes. So please